Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be a video about, obviously the weather, as you may have guessed. but it's going to be about potential for several storm systems. We're not, obviously not winter storms. We're not it's not that cold. it's not winter yet. But there are going to be these spring storms, right? Or really summer storms at this point. Late spring, early summer. And these storms are gonna be pretty worrisome, as they could pack some severe weather, some flooding, and some just dangerous weather, large hail, damaging winds. So let's get right into this. If you'd like to subscribe to this channel, that'd be wonderful. If not, that's perfectly fine. If you'd like to like the video, if you're a returning viewer, that would be amazing. If not, perfectly fine. So let's get into this. We're looking at the GFS model global forecasting system. Notice we already have a pretty large system delivering precipitation and even some snow across the higher elevations of the mountainous northwest. If you look, it's pretty strong. It's right now centered across parts of North Dakota. This continues lifting to the north, right? And this will deliver heavy rain across portions of the southern Canadian plains into Big Bear Lake right there. I think that's Manitoba. Let's count. I always count my provinces down. I know this is British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. So I think I did that right. Maybe these two are flipped. I'm getting a little bit of a brain freeze here. But Big Bear Lake, you can see there's quite a bit of rain, precipitation falling. Notice that this doesn't really fall apart. Okay, there's quite a bit of moisture with this system. Okay, and there's quite a bit of energy in the atmosphere working with this system. Okay, so this system does not easily fall apart. Notice that another one arises, or I guess another vortice, kind of a weak spinning cyclone, if you will. And this really just meanders across the northern, southern Canadian plains and across the northern plains. It delivers rain. You could see some flooding, and behind it, it really gathers up quite a punch of cooler air. Now, this is going to be some pretty large dose of cooler air. Okay, this is going to be, pretty significant. Okay, this isn't going to be something lightly taken. This will deliver quite cold air across the central United States after the storm passes. But let's quickly just glance through this. So notice we get at this point a very nice, well-defined front. This is a very well-organized system for the summer. Usually during the winter time, especially the late winter, early springtime, or early winter, late fall, we get these big classic storms that have a cold front, they have a warm front, and they're sitting right here, and they're just a blizzard on the backside, flooding, severe weather here, and just scattered thunderstorms with the warm front, right? In this case, obviously it's summer, so it doesn't really come together as well. It's usually a little bit more scattered, widespread, or sorry, more isolated, not as widespread. And notice with this one, it's relatively organized. It doesn't have a blizzard, obviously. It has some rain showers in the back, a nice cold front, and a nice warm front right there. You can see out ahead of this, it would be very warm if you were to look at the temperature anomalies. Okay, if you were to look again, look. Okay, very above average. Okay, 4 to 6 to 8 degrees above average in terms of Celsius. Okay, so in terms of Fahrenheit, that is up to 20 degrees above average. That is short-lived, as this cold air just really is building that behind it. And if this were a winter storm, winter system, this would be a classic Arctic blast of air. This would bring very cold temperatures. It's the summer, so no worries. It's probably not going to freeze over the water. It's just probably going to bring a little bit of chilly air, and it's going to make it feel probably more pleasant rather than unpleasant. Okay, so let's, I would beg to argue that it's more unpleasant under these conditions right here, under this warm front, rather than behind this cool air. During the winter, it's the opposite, but it's summer. So let's take a look at this. Notice that this cold front kind of drags across the plains very, very slowly into Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and into Illinois. Notice some scattered showers across these locations. It's a bit overplayed right there, but some scattered showers possible. It's been very wet across the Carolinas, and it will continue to be. That's because of a system that is located on the outer banks of North Carolina, and that one is, it's just kind of meandering. I think it has a 10% chance of developing as a tropical, some sort of system, which is very low, 10%, and it's called Invest 91L, something like that, I think. So let's continue looking at this. Notice that weak front kind of just, I guess, delivers just showers over extended period of time across the Midwest. But again, it's a pretty large storm. You can see right there. It's pretty powerful. And then out of that storm, you can see we get quite a bit of remaining moisture. It gets unlocked from the Gulf of Mexico, and this will be cooler at this time. Cooler temperatures will be around at this place because of the cold front that dragged in a cooler air. If you were to look at the anomalies, it is cooler. Not as cool as it will be, but it is pretty chilly. Okay, and let's continue looking at this. Notice a lot of precipitation. If you recall, last week and right now, we were not having a lot of precipitation across the Midwest of the country. There's not much. It's pretty much bone dry. That's a good thing, honestly. We've been very wet, so a little bit of dry out is good. And the better news is that this is not going to last. We have rain coming back in the forecast, and you can see that it's going to be widespread. And it's just clusters of thunderstorms, small systems, nothing big. The big storm is really this one right here across southern Canada. Okay, we move forward. We notice that this one evolves into a pretty large storm by the east side of James Bay. This little thing is James Bay, which is connected to the larger and more well-known Hudson Bay of Canada, left behind by the glaciers. And you can see that almost kind of propels this cold air to make an attack. Not before another powerful system storm complex. This would be possibly a setup for great severe weather. So especially with that cold air right there and that warm air trying to get in on it, we'll definitely have to watch this. Yes, granted, this is 174 hours out, so it's very far out in short terms. In short words, make a long story short, it's very far out. That's, we can't track severe weather from that distance. But what we can track is, hey, look, there's an excess of precip at this time. That's what the models are showing. We may have to watch this as, usually when they're showing such a signs of precip, then we'll have to keep an eye on for this. But again, this isn't about just one storm. This is about a series of storms. And you can see after that, it just gets dry. And the reason for that is very cool air. And that is because of that reservoir that was stored up behind the first storm. It kind of got stuck up there, and it finally went back down into the U.S. And it kind of maintains itself there. You can see more precipitation, more little storms, more little complexes, and just a way more wet period of time than it has been. Which honestly, I'll take that because my potatoes have been pretty dry. I was in the garden today, and some of them were actually wilting in the heat of the day. Now obviously, yes, I keep them watered, but I'd much rather it rain than I go watering with a watering can. The reason I water with a watering can and not a garden hose, a little bit off topic here, but I know many people do have gardens that watch me here, is because of the chlorine in the hose. I really don't prefer. I prefer not to not to do that with the gardening hose, because of the chlorine, and that kills off some of the beneficial bacteria. So I use a rain barrel water, but I don't have a hose connected to that, so I just walk around like a maniac with two watering cans, watering almost a 500 square foot garden. So that's a tough one every day. So I'd much rather it rain, and it's good. The rain is coming. So now back to the topic of the weather. Let's look at the European model. Let's see what it's showing. Again, this is not a surface precipitation map, but we could tell maybe by it if there's any storms. By the low pressures, you can see there's that system that we're talking about that's occurring right now. Notice that it passes, we get that cool blast, and you can see that it's keeping that red color, which is that heat, out of here, which is basically indicating that it's it's going to be cooler across the central part of the country. At least the GFS is a proponent of that. European a little bit less so. But I also want to point out something very quickly. If the GFS were to be right, I want to show you that it's showing some ridiculous anomalies across the Canadian plains. And I know this isn't really about Canada, but might as well talk about it, right? So let's take a look at this. And let's take a glance at this. Notice that we have that cool air from that storm. It kind of sits in the middle, but look at these temperature anomalies right here. If we were to go to the 2-meter temperature anomalies, which is closer to the surface, it shows even more. I mean, that is just absolutely absurd. It'll be warmer in these locations than it is in possibly the south. You can see the south will generally be warm as well, but the anomalies are just not that significant. Look at that 90s across James Bay. That doesn't happen too often. It probably happens maybe once a year, but there could be several in a row. And you can see the south is kind of competing with this, while it's very cool across the central part of the country. So a unique setup, and that's why we could be seeing such a rainy pattern. and the Southwest will be warm as well. To be honest with you, it's much of the United States that will be warm, other than I guess like a central spot across the United States, which could be shifting depending on which forecast model you look at. 6 to 10 day outlook from Climate Prediction Center. You could see warm East Coast, warm West Coast, looking just a little bit cooler across the central U.S. And that includes parts of the southern central U.S. and the northern central U.S. Now you look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, you can see it really just dwindles, and we see above average temperatures across the south, but it's a little bit, it's kind of, I guess, limited to Florida, Georgia, southeastern Georgia, southeastern Mississippi, but then you can see much of the west and the northeast is warm. And if this were to extend across Canada, the Climate Prediction Center, if they were to do this would be just absurdly warm right there. That would be like, the confidence in that would probably be a 90 or plus. At this point, most models are showing that. Let's quickly look at the precipitation anomalies by looking at the ensembles. And then this will basically tell us where it is above or below average precip. And you can see as a long range, right now I wouldn't really say it's going to be, this is day 1 through 7, so probably the first couple of the days of that range will be drier, but then we start getting that more precip, and then you can see it maintains itself while it's dry to the north and the south, where it's going to be the hottest. So that's just really, really bad news, as that could cause some droughts. And that's where a lot of food is grown. Obviously not that far north, but across the southern Canadian plains, food does grow in Canada, despite what people may think. It's a livable environment. It's not all Arctic. It's not all snow. Polar bears live by James Bay, but it's way up here, and by the southern tip of it, it's a different climate. So thank you guys so much for watching. Consider liking the video. Consider subscribing to this channel. Stay tuned. Stay tuned to your forecast. Keep an eye on the sky. Have fun in life, but you got to keep an eye on the weather, as that is a very important factor. So thank you so much, and I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.